All right. Hopefully, you guys can hear me. What is up, everybody? I'm having some difficulty back here. Jake, I see you back there. Can you hear me? I can't hear you, but I can see you. I'm having difficulties back here. It's been a long day. I apologize. I'm running late. Um, I and my wife, we had a late dinner. She took the kids ice skating, and I'm, catching up on everything back here. But I just want to, super excited to be back. I got old friend from the paranormal field, J.D. Hill, joining me to chat tonight. I actually haven't even talked to Jay in a long time. I think the last time I talked to him was an old podcast. I think, man, I think I was on my way to Wilson Castle. Man, that was a long. Oh, actually, no, I don't remember. Might have been on my way home from Brooke and Zach's wedding from Wildwood, but I know it's been a long time since I talked with Jay. Jay is the founder and creator of Studio 6 Media. He's a podcaster with 4 different podcasts. Um, I don't know how to take that. I don't know if that says he's just highly dedicated or just sleep is optional in his world. Um, I couldn't do it. That's why I have this one. It kind of conjoins a little bit of both. A little bit of everything that I am doing. It's a little bit of music. I do have the music background. Same with Jay. Paranormal background. Same with Jay. Film background. Same with Jay. We both love history. So I know this is going to be a super exciting show. I don't know if I could run 4 podcasts. That's for sure. I barely am finding enough time to do this one. That is mostly because I have recently been working on becoming an addiction recovery counselor, getting my CDCAs here in the state of Ohio to help recovering addicts. I'm one myself. I am over a year and a half sober from alcohol. And I won't lie, I was California sober for a long time, and I'm going on a month completely 100% sober. Just been, sticking to the Word, reading my Bible, mending that relationship with Christ that, I should have done years and years and years ago. But if it's done anything, it's really shown me, where I've failed, where I've faltered, where I've stumbled, and definitely where I need to pick myself up, especially in my personal relationships with my family. But a little bit more about Jay before I bring him on. He's working on what is the history behind the shadow films, working with, like I said, filming historical locations. I'm sure he's got some stories and some locations that I know he wants to get to, he wants to talk about. And just like him, I'm sure he's been to places just like me where history sometimes just doesn't want to talk. It just doesn't want to be known. So really want to sit down and see what some of his tactics are, how he gets some of these locations to come alive, and just have a good old chat, hang out, catch up, and I think that's really about the intro, all the intro that I had. So I'm just going to bring Jay in. And before he comes in, I just want to let everybody know that if anything fails, anything goes wrong or bad, it's not my fault. It's not my electronics or my newfound love of mental health. It's not me. I'm going to blame it on Jay and everything that he's got going on because he just seems busy. So let's just bring him in. Let's chat a little bit. There he is.
What's up?
What's going on, man?
Not much. Can you hear me okay?
Oh yeah.
Good. Yeah, you're on Restream or StreamYard or Restream. So yeah, you're good. I don't know what technical difficulties you were talking about, but
just I've been doing a lot of cleaning up back here. I don't know if you saw I'm getting rid of some of my items, and every once in a while I'll just completely clear my desk because it gets cluttered, and I'll unplug cords and forget where they go, and
oh yeah,
you're
been
just
there, done that.
yeah. So that's what it was today, just trying to get caught up on things and just making sure I got everything plugged in correctly.
That's cool.
So how's morning, evening, morning? I said morning. Wow. It is 8 p.m. and I said morning. Evening, Laura. So catch me up.
It's
How
all
you been?
right. I'm all right. You know, like you were talking about in your intro, yeah, I do have 4 shows. I think there's going to be 5 actually. Um, but as far as time goes, I just do it when I can. I don't really try to keep a set schedule anymore, just because it never works that way. So when it happens, it happens. You know.
That's it's ironic you bring that up because that's literally something I was thinking about earlier today. Is it's we there are too many people that tend to work so hard to follow that algorithm to get
Hmm.
those views to get and at the end of the day, all it does is stress you out,
Yep. It
and
doesn't
that's
ever work that way.
no, and that's where I'm at. Is it doesn't matter what algorithm you follow. It doesn't matter, unless you got the money to pay to boost your views and everything.
Right. Right.
It's
Unless you have a studio and you clock in every day and you have a job doing it and somebody's paying you to do that, that's a different story.
right.
So we're not getting paid to do this. It would be nice to get paid to do this, but it is
My
what it
wife
is.
could agree with that one.
Mm-hmm.
That'd
Oh
be
yeah, so
nice.
could mine. Yep, yep, so could mine. You know, so yeah.
So let's dive up. What are the 4, possibly 5 podcasts you have? I know you got music.
Well, I'm working on the last one I put together was a music podcast called Metal Freedom, and I interview metal artists, heavy metal and thrash metal and speed metal and all that. Yeah, that one actually kind of took a life of its own, and I really like doing that. It's a lot of fun. I actually have uh, a guest coming on Tuesday. I got to do all the promo and the video and all that stuff because I do my own marketing and editing and all that stuff.
That's not fun.
My own promotions. Takes me about 2 hours to do a 30-second intro on my phone. But yeah, no, I got a really good band called Thorns coming Tuesday, and they're on Spotify, and they've got quite a few followers and listeners, and it's some old school music, and I really dig it. So
I
um,
miss. I definitely keep doing that. I miss. I remember back in my wife and I got together 2015, 2016, 2017. Um, I had my own radio network. I had my own show. Um, have you ever used Centovacast?
mm-mm.
It's awesome. It's very confusing to use at first, but it gives you basically your own radio station.
Really?
You can have your own app. Yeah, I had one. It was called Rain Radio. This was back in the day. I've considered restarting it again, but it's just so much work to do yourself.
Yeah, right. Right. With all the advancements in technology and everything, it's kind of it may seem at some point it's gotten a little bit simpler, but in hindsight it's gotten a little bit more complicated. Where you actually need more than one person just to do it. You
Oh,
know.
I can agree.
A lot of these podcasters have producers now.
Yeah,
So, I mean, I was a producer for a couple different shows myself, and I was like, yeah, I'm not doing that. I'll produce my own stuff. You know.
yeah. I did that for a while. It just got to be tedious. It was taking time away from family and everything else that I needed to do. But um, yeah, just like you said, everything's advancing. It seems like every time I open like Facebook or TikTok, you got to learn something new. You got to figure
Oh
something
yeah.
else out. And ever since Facebook went to Meta and you can't do anything through Facebook anymore, it's asinine in my opinion. Just
Hmm.
keep it straightforward. We're
Right.
getting too
Right.
old for this.
Oh yeah. Got to keep it as simple as possible. And that's why I limit myself to what I do. I mean, I don't try to put when I first started, like when you were on my first podcast, Studio 6 Paranormal podcast. You were like my second guest.
Who was
Second
your
or third.
host, your co-host then? I don't, was it
Shane
Shane?
Peak. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yep.
Shane Feek.
Yep.
That's right.
Yep. And I remember that. And we did that show when I was broadcasting outside of the haunted Maxwell Mansion. So, yeah,
Yeah, that's
that was
right.
because I started my podcast in a haunted location, and that was cool. It was fun.
I, I wanted to do that for the longest time, but I'm like, nah, I'll just make my own. And then
Right.
just,
Right.
I didn't care.
Right. And the good thing about that was it was only 10 minutes from my house. You know, I was already set up in the upstairs office, and we did, a lot of different. We did. I had it for about a year and a half, and we also had some activity on live, and that was fun. And the one thing that I would remember was when we were talking about when you were talking about, some technical difficulties and everything. I ran into a lot of spiritual difficulties. They would mess with my equipment something fierce because it was something foreign. It was different. They never, so it came down to where one thing would go wrong, the next thing would go wrong. I'd fix that, and I just there was no rhyme or reason for it. Everything worked fine, and then it just when I would go live, it wouldn't work, and it didn't make any sense. So eventually, I sat those spirits down and said, "Listen, I'm trying to do something here. Please stop messing with all this stuff." And they did.
Oh, I used to get that a lot. One of the last places I tried live streaming was the Monroe House.
Mm-hmm.
Monroe House. I kept having so many difficulties with every camera at that location. I actually that location doesn't even like me, just to be honest.
Yeah,
It doesn't, which is fine because I don't like it either.
right. And I don't think it was personal, but it's just the fact that that's kind of the way it goes with some of these locations. Is any spirits that are there just don't want that interaction. You were talking
Yeah,
about
a
it
lot of them
earlier.
don't.
They just don't want that. They want to be able to do whatever they're doing or feel the grief or, you know, whatever they've gone through and guilt and all that. They just want to be left alone. And that's just kind of the way it is. It's not like that
Oh, yeah.
everywhere, but, but I mean, there's more than you could shake a stick at. I mean, there's quite a few of those places. So,
I know. I don't think I've been to. Well, I take that back. I think I've been to two locations that were very very quiet. That was, believe it or not, SK Pierce was very quiet when we filmed,
mhm.
and Haunted Hill House in Texas. I I don't know how. I was there with a whole bunch of people filming. Um, of course, it was Paraflix and
Mhm.
Nate. I can't think of his last name. It was his crew, but they were getting a whole lot of experiences, a whole lot of stuff going on. But myself, like, it was quiet for me the whole weekend.
Right. Right. I just spent a weekend in Ohio last summer.
Nice.
I went to the funeral home. God, where is that?
Was it in Cleveland?
No, it was just south of Cincinnati, southeast, and it was in a small town. And it's on my Facebook page. But I went there with K2 Paranormal, my good friend Kelly Schaefer, and our crew, and this old funeral home from 1913. Broadview is what it was.
Broadview. I haven't
Broadview
heard of
Funeral
that.
Home. Yeah. So, I drove, it was 6 hours from my house because I'm up in Wisconsin, and I drove down there, and it was beautiful. I'd never been that far south, and, to see how beautiful everything is and this and that. And had to go into Kentucky and then come back out of Kentucky to get to it, and which was kind of cool. But anyways, yeah, I went to this place, and I initially got some stuff there, but I slept on the floor in one of the parlor rooms, and I didn't have any anything mess with me or whatever. It was just kind of just there. And people were like, oh, and um, Nick Groff has been there, and he did a special on that place, and he said, it's this, that, and the other thing, and I'm like, yeah, it's there, but if you are able to interact with it, great, and we had minimal active, minimal things that happened there, and it was nice to get away, for a weekend,
Right.
but it was still kind of just, it was disappointing, but there again, I tried to do one of my podcasts there, and that worked a little bit. I did it. I was able to do one of my shows there, but I didn't last long because I had so many people there. I was just,
Overwhelmed.
I would rather do it by
Wow.
myself or do it with another person, or you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. I know you're a psychic medium as well, and when you
Yep.
talk about going to locations that are quiet, how do you get messages, feelings, or things from entities that may be there, even though
Yeah.
it's a quiet location, and you
Yeah.
follow that, or
Yeah. Basically, it's kind of like if it's something that's prevalent that's there, and if there's a message to be said, or if there's something where I'm kind of on their radar, so to speak, I'll get a message days or a week before or whatever, um, and I'll see flashes of like somebody holding pictures up in front of my face, and it'll resonate with me, and then I'll be able to follow through with that if I go to that location, or if I talk to somebody, hey, are you going to this location? Are you inviting me to this location? And then, oh, I was going to invite you, but I'm surprised. It's funny you say that. Well, it's like, well, because I got the message before you even said something,
right.
that you were going to go. And so that's happened a few times here and there. And,
What
it's
about
just,
you ever gotten anything that like a spirit tells you something or a feeling, and you're just like, wow, I didn't really need to know that, or like kind of throws you
um,
off a little bit?
no, it's not really. I mean, I'd have to the way I work is I if I'm at a haunted location, if there's a spirit there that's active and they're open to talking with me or interacting with me or whatever. The one thing that people don't realize is if they've done something when they were alive and it's caused them to feel guilty, or done something where they don't want to cross over or whatever, they're not going to divulge that information. And it's not that I can't see what they did, but I'll take this as an example. There was the place where I was at. I can't say where, but there was a place I was at. A gentleman um, was kind of like a shadow figure, and there was a lady there, a girl, and she was pissed. I mean, constantly mad. Every time if I would go to this location, I would get it like accosted. I mean, she would just be like in my face constantly, and I could just, her energy was really messing with my frequency, and came down to the point where I basically had to talk to her and find out what happened. Well, this gentleman evidently killed her, and she was haunting him,
Oh no.
and she was, you know what I mean. So it was kind of a roundabout whole. She gave me the picture of how it happened and all this stuff, and that would be like, yeah, I really don't need to know that. I don't really want to know that, unless it's pertinent to what I'm doing. And
Right.
I, I
That makes
just helped.
sense.
I just helped her. I cast a light and said, "Here, go here, and just you'll be better off." And she did. So,
So what are your thoughts on this? I know it was one I struggled with there for a little bit. Do you think history, like these locations, like I know you're doing history documentaries.
mhm.
Is that going to be paranormal focused, or just
It's going to
talking about
be a little bit
history,
of
or
both. Yeah, it's going to be a little bit of both. It's going to be
so
mostly about the history, that the stories that nobody wants to tell or haven't been told. But there
like the
are
truth?
paranormal, yeah, yeah. But there are
There's one
paranormal.
that I would. There's one. I'm not gonna lie. It is a great time to be a conspiracy theorist. I'm happy
Oh yeah.
about it. But there is one that I've dove into pretty well. Um, that I know would be a very very touchy subject for the paranormal field.
Mhm.
Um, I'd be interested in chatting with you about it, even if it's something I'm like, hey, have at it. You
Mhm.
want to do it, do it. But do you think spirits actually care about how history remembers them, or do you think that's something that we, the living, just obsess over?
It's more or less what the living obsess over. I mean, things are on the other side when somebody passes, especially if they don't want to cross or they want to stay on the in between plane. Um, a lot of it has to do with guilt or fear of reprisal or sadness or grief or whatever, and there are some that just don't want to go because they love it. They love the location, and whatnot. And so, and those are even far few in between, so um, it's just they can give a shit, I would say, but most of the time they don't. I think they're more things move differently on that side.
Right.
We're only able to bridge the gap once in a while to where we can communicate with
And
them
so
and this and
far,
that. Right. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like until we cross over to that in between ourselves and find out what the story is, and find out, like, have that aha moment of, oh, that makes sense, or oh yeah, God, why didn't I think of that type thing? You know what I mean? It's not black and white. You know what I mean? I wish it was, but it's really not. So there's different things that people who have passed and who haven't crossed over for various reasons. And there are ones that just are so enveloped in their own grief or fear or guilt or whatever. Guilt's a big one. A
yeah.
lot of people, a lot of spirits that don't cross are guilty for not finishing something or leaving somebody behind or whatnot. And to really be honest, it doesn't really necessarily matter, you know. Like there was a story where there was another medium years ago that was talking about two people, that a young couple that had this like Romeo and Juliet type relationship, and they thought that they were gonna end up together, forever and in the afterlife and all this other stuff, da, da, da. And then they both had took their lives, and come to find out from this medium that she was about this talking to this girl, and what was on the other side was they were never really meant to be together. He went on to ascend to something else, and she felt that that's why she was like stuck. So we make those decisions on this plane.
Right.
Doesn't necessarily mean they transcend when we cross into the in between and after. You know what I mean? So it's not black and white. You know,
It's yeah. I mean, that's definitely a lot to ponder and think about. Especially from my, I don't want to say religious standpoint, because I'm far from religious.
well,
Um,
so am I.
I mean, I have a relationship with Christ. I don't even consider myself to be a Christian.
I have
Um,
a relationship with Christ, and I've got great stories with my interactions with Him.
same. That I guess that leads me to, is what really led me to wanting to do the addiction recovery to get my CDCAs has been how deep I've been diving into the Bible and how deep I've been interpreting it. Myself, I've struggled with PTSD. I have my own traumas, bipolar disorder, BPD. Um, and as much as I've been diving into it, it's really helped me pull myself out of a lot of anxiety, a lot of depression, a lot of everything. So, from that standpoint, do you believe a lot of the spirits that could be left behind from the guilt, from the fear, from everything are because they didn't fully give their life to Christ? Therefore, they were never able to completely renew their mind, as
I think,
the Bible says.
yeah, I think there's a handful that probably could think that if they were stuck in the in between, if they didn't go any further. You know what I mean? It's kind of like opening that other door and seeing the truth and be like, oh, I really didn't have anything to worry about. Either I didn't have, why was I, fearing this or being guilty? You know what I mean? So it's kind of like when somebody wants to take a new job and somebody says, okay, hey, this is a great new job that you're going to take and this and that. And you get up to that point to open that door and it's unexpected and you've never really done it or you don't know anything about it, but people believe in you to do it. And then you stop and you turn around and you go home and you say, I can't do it. That happens more times than anybody can count. But that also happens on the in between on the other side. They don't want to take that step, but as far as the religious aspect of it, I think some of that might play a role, but I think a lot of it is those people that have that role of religion and this and that are then fearful of the reprisal of what's beyond that light, of where they think or where they're going to go or what's going to happen and this and that. The aspect of the religion is a construct of all the energy that everybody has. We're all connected. No matter what what anybody says, we are a living human life form. We are all connected to some degree, and people don't understand that, And so yeah, so I just think that religious aspect of it on the other side, could it be there? Yeah, I've not ran into that. I haven't ran into anybody talking about it. I've ran into spirits coming through the light and telling a story, but I've never had a spirit come to me and says, I'm afraid that, you know, my religion was wrong or anything to do with religion. You know what I mean? So,
Right. I really haven't either. It was just a
yeah.
question. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, I've been looking at it from different perspectives.
If you want a really good book to read, if you're diving into your Bible, there's a book that I swear by, and I love the book itself. It's a thick book. It's called it's a theology book of Christian theology, and the guy who wrote it. The book is just astronomically huge, but it has a great section in there on the demonic and the dark side and all this. All this a different perspective, and there are so many, and that's what a lot of the theology is it's a different perspective that doesn't necessarily follow the exact same frame point, or the framework of what the Bible's. It's a complementary book, but I think that you can actually dive a little bit deeper into this theology book and make your own conclusions and saying that makes more sense, or this makes
Right.
more sense. You know what I mean? So
That's
I was drawn to that book. I mean, drawn to it. I mean, I still have it. I got to find it, but I still have it here in the basement somewhere. But I don't. Have you ever heard like a song that you really like or that you really, like God, I haven't heard that song forever. I remember how I felt when I heard that song, and it was just like a real moving moment. That book does that for me. Seriously, I mean, it's that moving.
I think that's what I like that you said that, because one of the things that I've really been noticing in my journey, especially spiritual, is you have a lot. I personally have had a lot more. It's like turning on a light switch. It's like
Mm-hmm.
you're not. I don't feel like I'm learning anything. I feel like I'm remembering what I've already known.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You know what I
Once you
mean?
get
It's
that
like
remembrance, it's like, how did I know that? It's
right.
but it's not that feeling of did I make it up? It's an automatic. I already knew that. You feel it deep down inside.
Hmm.
You feel it
Hmm.
way down in there, and you just
Oh
know
yeah.
it. It's like looking in
Oh
the
yeah.
mirror. You know
I
what you're
had.
looking at. So
Go ahead.
no, you know what you're looking at, and you know automatically, and that's what those knowings deep inside of you. That's what those are.
Oh, I looking in the mirror was the hardest thing to do. Like so I the what really changed me, and I really haven't come out and really spoke about it a whole lot, was my wife and I were very close to a divorce back in August, September. It was about August, end of July, and like I didn't know that I had BPD. Um, my bipolar disorder and everything, I don't take meds. I refuse meds. So my
Mhm.
whole life, I just kind of dealt with it. I
Right.
didn't realize how much I was actually letting it run my life, control me. I thought I've been doing everything right. Um, but when I was diagnosed with BPD, and really diving into the Bible, I hit this, like after my baptism, I hit this guilt phase
Hmm.
that I could not get out of. It took me forever, to the point my wife and I almost divorced. Um, and I dove, like it was to the point where we pulled money out of savings. I had 2 months down on an apartment. We had the paper signed. And in that process of reading the Bible, understanding these light switches turning on, 2 days before I was supposed to move out, my wife broke down in the driveway and she didn't want me to leave. I was making all these changes. I was reading the Bible, understanding it. I was approaching our issues with more listening, a lot less defense, a lot, so it really it put me in my place, and I hit this guilt that was just insane.
Hmm.
Um, so in the process, I've actually been developing. So I am life coach certified. Um, I don't even care about it. But one thing that coaches in therapy does is they teach you their process is linear. It teaches you how to get from point A to point B. And it's
Hmm.
cool. Once you hit point B, there's no help on how to go further, how to stay there. It's
Hmm.
all right. Well, now you're back at the beginning. Let's start over.
Hmm.
Um, so in this process of my journey and understanding everything, I've been developing my own form of transformation that God has talked to me about this entire process. Um, I am excited. I haven't really talked about it a whole lot. Um, but yeah, it's all the religion, all the finding, aligning with Christ and everything. It's just it's made my mentality totally different. And I question the paranormal a lot differently now.
Hmm.
So, and history.
Right. Right. I don't really question, not so much question the paranormal. It's just the fact that
I
when I
guess I go
started.
into I don't question it per se. I guess I kind of I I try and look at it from both sides now.
Hmm. Hmm.
I guess is the best way.
It's an ocular view. Yeah,
Hmm.
the whole view of everything, and that's kind of the way I was. When I first started out in the paranormal, it was kind of like realizing that my gifts were getting stronger, but not accepting them for what they were. And then as time went on, spirit would be like, you got the right idea, but not quite. You know what I mean? And so I would kind of like veer this way or veer that way. And there was, when you hit a wall and you're like, okay, I thought I was supposed to go this direction, and there's a wall here. And then God says, okay, try a different avenue. Go to a different avenue. That's my whole life in a nutshell. I'm
Yeah.
kind of like this duck that keeps quacking along and running into walls and backs up and goes someplace else, and then it's kind of it's crazy, but it's a
Yeah.
learning process. That's what a lot of people don't realize, is that it is a true learning process, and that's what life on Earth is.
Hmm.
It's a learning process to ascend to your wherever you're going. You're ascending. After this life, you're ascending to the next, or wherever you're going. I mean,
And
so
unfortunately, we will never know the
right,
answer.
right. So and that's what a lot of people don't quite understand. That there was one phrase that was spoken so true, was um, talking about God, and saying, God saying, your thoughts are not my thoughts. We
They're
couldn't
not.
even imagine to think about or think the way he thinks in that sense. So it's
Right.
kind of like,
And
maybe
that phrase. Go ahead.
maybe there's for some people to understand that there's more to all of this in the paranormal, all of this, with the whole spiritualism and this and that. The main purpose is we're trying to enlighten ourselves enough to experience that bliss or remember that bliss when we knew what it was before we were even here. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's a remembrance, and I tell people this too, is it's not a resurgence of religion, or even Christianity, or whatever, or Buddhism. It's a resurgence of energy and focus and remembrance.
And that's exactly what the Book of Revelations tells us.
Right.
Book of Revelations is what's telling us that history repeats itself. It's all there. We are constantly living that one book, in my opinion, of course.
Hmm.
So let's so we'll kind of dive off religion a little bit. I know that's not everybody's thing to discuss.
Oh yeah, no, that's fine, but it's
I
easy to get into if you've
It
had that
really
experience.
is. It is.
Yeah.
That's what I was going to say a little bit ago is you mentioned um, the mind, and I forget what it was you said, but that literally, I never picked up a Bible in my life until just this year. Um, and it was, God gives you the power of a sound mind. And
Right.
when I hear that, it's not quiet, but I hear that it's organized. It's not full of chaos. It's not full of fear. It's not full of all of these beliefs that are running in my head. And that one verse literally was like, holy crap. I'm not really depressed. I'm not this. I'm not that. Everybody else is telling me I am. But the Bible and God's telling me that that's not how I created you. So
Right.
why are you doing
Right.
this? So that
Right.
helped me a lot. Um,
Can I ask you a
yeah,
quick question?
go ahead.
So, would you agree that the static and the noise on the outside causes people
Get up. I didn't know you're home.
to not look in, but to search out? You know what I mean? They're searching for to include themselves in everything and everybody instead of looking in. You think society has made us to the point where we want to be all included instead of being all, learning about ourselves and our
Hmm.
remembrance?
Hmm. Yeah, I same with. I'd say we're too busy focused on trying to fit in rather than be ourselves.
Hmm.
Even I lost my train of thought there, but uh, oh
It
man,
happens. It totally happens, and it sucks.
I
And
mean,
I'll
I mean
totally,
that was a good question. I was caught off guard on that one,
yeah,
but I do believe that Sorry, they just got home from ice skating.
Oh.
You're in it. Hi. Oh, did you have fun?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, bye. She goes, hi. Okay, bye. But yes, I think we are too focused, and that is one thing that I know God really, really made me realize, that I was being too selfish because I myself was too busy trying to. I've always wanted better for my family. I've always wanted better for my kids. And I've always wanted to use my skill sets, which is podcasting, talking, filming, investigating. Right. But it got to a point where we're so surrounded by what other people think and trying to impress other people with so many things that we do forget about the ones that are here.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I do. I believe that a lot of the static is from the outside. That, you know, therapists will tell you who you are. Therapists are the first ones to go, you're depressed, you're sad, you're this, you're that, and give you a pill for it. Right. Okay, we got to remember that we didn't choose to be this way. As children, we allowed something else to shape our minds.
Mm-hmm.
And I heard what was it the other day? Somebody said we need to stop blaming our parents and start blaming the grandparents. Right? I mean, I have been doing what I thought I've been doing right as an adult, as a parent, as a dad, as a husband, based upon what I saw as a child.
Mm-hmm.
It's all been wrong.
Right.
It's all been wrong.
You
know, and
learn.
God told me that.
You learn what you're most familiar with, and
Mm-hmm.
your parents, your grandparents, and whoever. You know, that's the whole thing with like smoking. My parents smoked, and my sisters would say, "Well, we never smoked." You know, I don't know why. You know, that doesn't hold any water. Well, it does. I was the youngest. I was influenced. It was the 80s. We could still smoke on an airplane. You know, I mean, so there are things that are engraved in our brain. You know, case in point, my parents were older when they had me. I am a firm lover of 1950s crooner music. Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, all that stuff. You know, that's kind of the stuff that my parents listened to when they were young. And that transcends. You know what I mean? So I look at it as in when you're talking about how everybody is kind of worried about what everybody thinks of you or the person or whatnot. I want you to picture this. All the noise that's outside, all the screaming, all the yelling, all the likes and dislikes and this and that. Picture yourself walking from one room that is so loud into a room that's quiet and shut the door. We need, as a society and as an individual, we all need to start doing that. We need to go from one room to the next, close that door and sit down and shut the fuck up.
Right. And then do that in here.
Yeah.
And that's the hardest. That is the hardest.
That is. I mean, and seriously, and it's just shut up. Just stop. Just sit and quiet. Remember who you are.
That's the one thing I've been preaching is, you know, remember we're all children of God. And
yep.
It's, you know,
remember who your heart belongs to. And I've said this to people before. People laugh at me or, you know, and people, you know, kind of criticize me and said, "How can you do that? Being a medium and this and that. This goes against this." And I'm like, "That's static." What the truth is it was my responsibility when I came to Earth, to learn. It was my responsibility to walk away from the God who loved me, and my responsibility to turn around and point to him saying, "Yes, I still belong to you." And that's
everybody. That's the prodigal
in a
son.
nutshell. That is something that I take with me every day. I have to, you know. So a little
It's a tough
humility
one.
goes a long way.
Oh, absolutely. That's why I
You
tell
know.
everybody, love is the true warfare.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
So let's dive into a little bit your upcoming history. What is that? History behind the shadows.
Yeah.
Do you
So
got anything in the
I've been
works or?
yeah I have a campaign up. It's under the link's under my TikTok. It's under Studio 6 Media, and it's a starting fund. I want to be able to create this company. Excuse me, because there's history out there that people don't know about or don't want to know about. I want to be able to share some of those stories. A lot of it has to do with the Civil War era and the stories and the families and the houses and the buildings and this and that. That there's something about like Gettysburg that I have an affinity for. I'm drawn to that, and I have ancestral ties to the Civil War, and it's just constantly being called to go to Gettysburg, and it's just like I'm not independently wealthy. If I was, I would be able to do that. And part of this with this campaign is raising enough money to start with a startup company, which I'm thinking about taking the campaign to Kickstarter to try to get some of that going so that, I can get that going because this is something that I want to do. And it's something that I want to be able to give back to the community. I want people to know history. I want people to know. And you know what? And I didn't go to college to study history. I went to college to study Christian leadership.
I
You
don't think
know,
college is.
I went to for 2 years and I loved it. I mean, I got A's and B's and, so I want to be able to tell the stories that people don't tell. I want to be able to document history, buildings, locations, and you know, have people watch a documentary and saying that really moved me. You know, kind of like being a musician. Somebody says that music really moved me. So
I definitely like the history aspect. I do you
mhm.
think a lot of these locations, their true history gets watered down
Yeah,
because, say, some history, and I say this because this idea that I mentioned earlier that I wanted to talk to you about. Do you think some history gets watered down or hidden purposely?
oh yeah, tenfold
Because there's
because
one that
people,
I'm like,
yeah, the people don't want to don't. The people that are in control of some of that don't want other people to know because it makes them look bad or it makes the bottom line is it makes them lose money.
oh, absolutely. But
And
then we wonder why these spirits are mad
right,
because we're not telling the history right.
right, right. And that's where I come in that aspect is there's been sometimes where I ran into spirits and um there is so many different people. God, that kind of messed me up. Now it did the whole thing where my brain just said, "Whoop." um, talking about, God, I don't even know where I was going with that.
Sorry.
No, that's all right. It happens.
I
I
found it
I am
strange
living
because
proof.
she
I
said that
am
at the same time I was getting weird static in my headphones.
really.
Yeah.
Hmm. But yeah, no, the history aspect of it's a lot of it has to do with um, what a lot of people don't realize. And I'm just gonna say this. I mean, the world we live in now, the darkness on the you know what the darkness is. So it's just if there isn't in control, with any control or power or anything, chaos ensues. And it goes everything. There has to be some systematic frequency that can manage that. And I think that reaching over to the other side and talking to spirits and getting the story right in that aspect, I think some of that is important, to other people. Who knows that somebody, a grandchild of a late ancestor, hears that story and wonders, what their history was or where they came from, and it kind of puts things in perspective, and they're like, "Oh wow, God, I really thought I was supposed to do this. Now I know I can do this." I mean, it's small things like that, and
Right. You're right. Absolutely, it's a small, minute details that get overlooked or
right.
fabricated or hidden. Um, yeah, I mean, if you got like 10 minutes after this, I'd like to tell you about it.
Yeah.
As a conspiracy theorist myself, I did a little research, a little dive, um, and unfortunately, I know if that's the case, that there are a lot of locations that I'm sure some of their history is fabricated.
Oh yeah.
More than one. There's a lot, and it
Oh
does.
yeah.
I won't say it, but
Right. But I mean, this has been going on for forever. It's always something. What people don't understand is it's all about, and I dare I say it, is all about control.
Control money.
Yeah. And if you think that we don't live in a world of narcissists, oh, yeah.
Right.
We all have,
Wow,
and
that's
it's
true.
weird because I think that we all have part of that narcissistic element in us at some point. At some point, we had to pick it up somewhere, whether we watched
Right.
somebody be that way or whether we, we were raised that way or whatnot. Somebody's seen it. I know I've seen it.
And
I know
now,
I've acted that way at times in my life. I'm not proud of it, but it's a natural instinct to want to be in control of any situation. But the one thing that I always do if I ever really start to think about that, initially is what I think is, let's put myself in that person's view. But how would that person feel if I was acting this way towards them? If I was that person, would that make that person sad? Would that make them angry? Would you want to push that on that person?
right.
How would you know what I mean? How would you feel if it was the shoe was on the other foot? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So I always have to try to put myself in that person's shoes, and that prevents me from being a jerk.
I've had to
Because
do that a lot lately.
yeah, I wouldn't want that portrayed on me. So why
Right.
would I need to act like that? And it's frustrating with everything going on now. But talking about the history aspect of it, history, the words that I get that just came into my brain, history can save us.
Uh huh.
And to what end, I don't know. But all I hear is history can save us.
And it's ironic
So,
because that's well, I mean, it could go towards anything. I'm not going to say that it's what I want to talk to you about, but I know it's something that millions of people have witnessed over the last couple of years. That's for sure,
mhm,
and how it ties in with the past.
mhm.
Because history does repeat itself, no matter what people believe, no matter what people think.
Right,
What we're seeing
right.
happen right now is going to happen again, whether they
Yeah,
like it or not.
right.
So,
I wish that would happen with music. I
right,
wish they bring back some of the 80s music because if history repeats itself, for the love of God, let's bring back some of the 80s music and some of the bands that I listen to now. And talk about music real quick. There's a band called Wanted that I'm going to try to get on my podcast. Um, they sound a lot like back in the 80s, Doc and Rat and all that stuff, but way more polished. And I totally am like, why don't they bring that back? You know, why don't they
Right,
bring
right,
some of that feel good music? You know, I mean, hair bands and that type of music. Yeah, that was a lot of the guys trying to get chicks, and I get it. That was the time. You know what I mean? That was 80s, but the music was still good.
I
The
can't
music,
knock it. One of my
no,
first bands, I was in a glam band. I did the
there you
eyeliner.
go.
I did it. You know, I.
Yeah,
That's why you won't see me. You won't see me make fun of bands that do that. I did it. I won't lie.
yeah.
I wore the pink eyeshadow. I wore the
You
eyeliner. I
you,
wore,
you heard it here
it.
first, folks.
I did. I don't. I got no. You can go through my photos and find them. I got. I mean,
Right,
it's the things that we do for the things that we love. You know. Um,
right. But remember
I
how
was
you
in.
felt then when you did it.
I was an atheist in a Christian band at one point. I mean, I just wanted to play
Right,
music, but it
right.
did. I miss playing, and I told my wife one of the reasons I put the paranormal aside is I miss playing music. Um, that was always my outlet. Always.
Music is a frequency that is music is something that I've kind of gotten away from myself, and I started kind of trying to force myself to listen to more music, and it's just putting myself back in those memories of when I heard that song or heard this song and this and that. And it was kind of like, why did I stop listening? What happened in my life that I just turned my back on it? You know what I mean? And
Right.
so we all kind of need to turn around and get back into that room, sit down and shut up. You know, turn on some music, as somebody would say, you know, turn on some Pink Floyd.
That's why the Bible says be children. Go
Yeah.
back what it was like to be a child back when before your brain was
And
formed.
you know that the majority of people, and this speaking as spiritually as people who have crossed, not even crossed over or have crossed over, have died. Um, how do you view yourself? What age do you view yourself? If you have to
Myself,
think, yeah, what age do you view yourself?
definitely not 40.
Right.
I don't feel
So,
40.
right. But what age do you look at yourself from the inside out?
I've honestly never thought of that.
Okay. I view myself as 27 every day. Always have, even after I hit 27, that was the where it stopped. That's where I aged in my mind. That's where I look at myself. I get up in the morning. I still think I'm 27. I don't act like it, or I don't. Sometimes I act like it, but if I I don't feel it, I feel kind of pretty much my age. I'm going to be 55 this year,
Right, Laura?
and
I
that
feel 100 too.
and so, but my point is that when some people say when they cross over or when if they have a near death experience, they say, God, this person that my grandmother or my grandfather or my mom or my dad or whatever were there, and they looked really good, and they looked like they were 20 something. Now when you die and you think of the age that you are the most prevalent with or that you're most comfortable with, that's the image that you're going to want to portray. You're not going to die and be like, if somebody like you has never thought about it, but people who think about it, who are 80 and pass away, would be like, oh, do you think they want to come, they want, portray themselves as 80? No. There's movies where people, you know, or who have passed away and come back younger. That's a real thing. And people don't understand that. It's how you view yourself. Not only how you look at yourself and how you view yourself, but how you feel all the time. Now, or you could view yourself as 27 or 26 or whatever, but do you feel that way, or do you want to feel that way? You know what I mean? It's kind of weird how to But that's just something that I really seriously have thought about, and I don't necessarily feel my age or look my age. I've always portrayed myself as younger, just because of the fact that that's the way I view myself.
I've never really thought of that.
When people say, God says, be children, sure. I reminisce. I look back, and I look back in when I was, 8 or 9, played with my Castle Grayskull, toys that don't exist anymore, that are worth
Right.
thousands of dollars that I should have kept,
Right. Oh,
but
yeah.
yeah, young at heart,
It's the way to be.
and that's
Young at
it's the way
heart
to
and clear
be.
mind.
It's a way to view yourself. Don't view yourself as broken, defeated, and old. That's a defeatist mindset, and yeah, I choose not to do that. Even
And
though I feel it a lot. I mean,
that's how I've lived majority of my life, is just defeated. But I don't anymore. I don't now. I have more of a better growth mindset. Just wanting to do better.
mm-hmm. Yeah. So
Yeah, Laura messaged that to me. I'm definitely excited to see what you got with your history. I love
well, it
history.
depends on the funding aspect of it, because it's going to cost me some money to get this thing rolling. And like I said, I'm going to try to take the campaign over to probably Kickstart and try to launch it off there, because it's just one of those things where it's going to take money to make, and God willing,
as everything,
you know what I mean? God
unfortunately.
willing, and I pray for the blessing to come down, and for me to be able to do this, So
All right, Jay. Well, I think that was a great show.
it
I
was
think
fun.
I think we kind
It's
of
just like
talked a little
talking to
bit.
an old friend.
That's what I like. That's what I wanted. Like I've said a couple times, I'm humbled to be able to get back. I took a break from doing all this, and I feel greatly humbled to sit here and still bring, old friends back, people that I've talked to before, and sit, just because I haven't been doing anything doesn't mean I haven't been watching progress.
Mhm.
You've seen the stuff I've been saying
Oh yeah.
about people, but I still watch progress. I still see what everybody's doing, and
Yeah.
I definitely have a lot of respect for it. Um,
Hmm.
but where can people find? Let me real quick before we get out of here. Do you have a link? If you don't, it's okay. Or to your Kickstarter.
I do have the link. Yeah, I could send it to you in Messenger. Does that work?
Yeah, and I'll get that. I'll get that up on this too. Um, and then I'll get that shared out and everything as well. Where can people find you at? Like TikTok, Instagram, anything? I don't even
You can
use
find me
Instagram.
on any platform. You can find me on Instagram. You can find me on Threads. You can find me on YouTube. You can find me on TikTok, um, Facebook. I'm on Facebook. There's a couple different pages for JD Hill, Paranormal Investigator Medium. There's also JD Hill, and then there's Studio 6 Productions, which is on there too. I mean, yeah, I'm everywhere.
I had to cut some of that stuff down. I haven't been on Instagram in like 3 years.
Oh yeah, I mean, Instagram isn't really so. I used to be on X. I had a lot of followers on X, and then political BS 2 years ago, and I cut it
Yeah, it
down.
got to be too much to handle for me too. But all right, well, yeah, go ahead and send that to me,
I
Jay,
did
and
send
I'll
it to
get
you.
that.
Yeah,
Perfect.
I just sent it to you.
I think I got it. Yep, I got it.
Yeah.
I'm excited, man. I'm excited to see what you have coming out.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely want to get you back on here, have
Mm-hmm.
updates, and see what you
Yeah.
have. Um, I know next week, everybody, I'm supposed to have Stephanie Pitts. She's running the Cleveland Paracon here in Ohio, but last time I talked to her, she said she can't do it this late, so there's a possibility I may not either be on next week or I might have a different guest, but we'll see. But definitely be sure follow us on all of our socials. It's not showing up right now because everything back here. I'm still learning Restream. I missed
Really?
StreamYard. I was
No,
StreamYard, and then they
no,
got super expensive.
no. I have Restream and Riverside FM. Riverside FM is nice.
That's the one I was going to use, but I know
And
StreamYard is
it's
not.
StreamYard. Restream is easy. Restream or Riverside is. Excuse me. Is a little small learning curve.
Yeah, Riverside, right?
Riverside FM. What I like
That's
about
what it is.
Riverside FM is they make clips for you that you can just post on like social media. They
I know this
automatically,
is too, but
yeah,
I pay for it.
yeah.
But I'll get to that point eventually. I'm not here, trying to grow right away. I still got a
You
lot
digital creator, you.
I know. I had to cut a lot of that down. I was overwhelming myself, and it got to a point I had to take a step back.
You got to walk through that room and sit down.
You're telling me I really got to learn my meditation a lot better. It's something I've never been able to do very well. But
Look at the frequencies on Spotify playlist of frequencies, healing frequencies.
when I do, it's usually 432 hertz.
Yeah, do that, and then you can do the 963. Also works well. The God frequency that works well.
Yeah,
So you can find that.
432's 430. Is it
Yeah.
432? Yeah, that's the angelic one. That's the one that's
Right. Yeah.
illegal to
Mhm.
write in, isn't it? Or banned music,
Yeah.
whatever. I don't get it. Whatever. But anyway, everybody, thank you for tuning in tonight. Again, next weekend I'll be here, hopefully with Stephanie Pitts. If not, you will find somebody different in a post. Jay, I'm super excited. I'm glad you were able to put some time aside to chat tonight.
Yeah,
Again,
and thanks for
looking
having
forward
me.
to having you again. Yeah.
Yeah, indeed.
So let's go ahead and stay on, and I'll come back and chat with you for a minute.
All right.
All right, Jay. All right.